Bonjour! A pleasant day to our beloved panelists. We, the researchers, are greatly grateful to present in front of you our research entitled Correlation Between Tax Incentives and Economic Growth in the Freeport Area of Bataan. Here are the proponents of the study. So, to have a little background or overview, what is Freeport Area of Bataan or FAB? What does it do? FAB is the result of the Philippine government's decision to concentrate its development efforts in the field of foreign-owned, export-oriented industrialization. It is a special economic zone in Mariveles, Bataan, Philippines. So according to Forstater 2017, there are two ways on how the government funds their program. First, it is through taxation, where the money from the taxpayers comes into the government, and the government is the one who spends it by building infrastructures. Or second, through tax incentives to take a particular action, encouraging companies to invest or develop infrastructure. Under Corporate Recovery and Tax Incentives for Enterprises Act or CREATE Act, domestic corporations' income tax shall either be 20% or 25%. So, FAB is granted numerous tax incentives which are laid down on the screen. FAB, as seen earlier, also enjoys a 5% final tax on their gross income. So, as we can see, the difference in tax rates of 20% or 25% under CREATE law and income tax holiday of 5% tax imposes a huge difference when it comes to the revenue that the government would receive. To this extent, this research seeks to answer the use of tax incentives as a propeller or as a mere foregone tax revenue to the government through unfolding fiscal stimulus by determining tax incentives correlation in the Freeport Area of Bataan to the economic growth. This study aims to answer the question, is there a significant relationship between tax incentives and economic growth in FAB in terms of investment in physical capital, investment in human capital, and productivity growth? And lastly, is there a significant relationship between tax incentives and economic growth in FAB? Shown in the screen are the theoretical framework that serves as a foundation for this research. Our hypothesis, based on the theoretical framework, is that tax incentives imposed on FAB have no significant relationship with the economic growth of FAB. At first glance, it seems ironic that a country like ours are implementing these tax incentives. However, these incentives allegedly contribute to the economic growth due to the influx or attraction of foreign investments in the country. With this, we want to challenge if it outweighs the benefits foregone by not being able to collect tax from them. The general public has a limited knowledge concerning existence of tax incentives. In fact, few studies conducted in the Philippines were published with regards to freeports. For our methodology, the researchers employ a standard tool used by economists to study economic growth, which is an empirical framework called growth accounting in this quantitative research. Moreover, secondary data is also gathered from DBM, AFAB, and COA from a period of 2015 to 2018. This is our operational framework. Our independent variable is tax incentives and our dependent variable is economic growth. So presented on the screen are the research procedures. Step 1, obtain the 2015 to 2018 tax incentives information by investment promotion agency by type of tax incentives from DBM. Step 2, using the tax incentives information by investment promotion agency by type of tax incentives, compute the total tax incentives and its percentage of change. Presented below are the formulas. Step 3, obtain the 2015 to 2018 AFAB Annual Audited Financial Statements and AFAB Annual Report from the website of the COA. Step 4, using the AFAB Annual Audited Financial Statements, compute the AFAB's physical capital using the Return on Assets ratio. Step 5, using the AFAB Annual Audited Financial Statements, compute for the AFAB's human capital using percentage of change in the personal service expense. Step 6, using AFAB Annual Audited Financial Statements, compute for the AFAB's productivity growth using the CLEMS multi-factor productivity and its percentage of change. Step 7, data analysis using descriptive statistics and correlation statistics. So for our descriptive statistics, the table above displays the quantitative characteristics of the data by presenting the mean, median, and standard deviation, as well as the minimum and maximum values of the variables under study, namely tax incentives, physical capital, human capital, and productivity growth. So the table shows the relationship of independent and dependent variables using Pearson's correlation. It used a 0.05 or 5% significant level, which means that if the result is less than 5%, then there will be a significant relationship between tax incentives and the dependent variables. The correlation value shown by the used matrix resulted in 0 and 94,000, 0 and 161,000, and 0 and 578,000 respectively. So tax incentives showed that it has no significant impact on economic growth in terms of physical capital in FAB, having a p-value of 94,000. Tax incentives showed that it has no significant impact on economic growth in terms of human capital in FAB with a p-value of 0 and 161,000. Tax incentives showed that it has also no significant impact on economic growth in terms of productivity growth in FAB, having a p-value of 0 and 578,000. With that, we failed to reject the null hypothesis. Government's foregone revenues of almost millions to billions of pesos for its implementation of tax incentives to the Freeport area of Bataan is not proportional to the infrastructures erected, as well as the employment and productivity in the Freeport area of Bataan itself after examining three variables. Here are the conclusions and recommendations. So the growth of FAB is independent from tax incentives and may be caused by independent investors' decision. Tax incentives are not the only benefits that special economic zones enjoy. In AFAB, there are business-friendly regulations. It was seen that the percentage increase of tax incentives also has a corresponding but only minimal percentage increase in physical capital. It was seen that the average increase in tax incentives were not proportional to the average increase in the human capital during the same period. One possible explanation is that employees gain efficiency and effectiveness in their employment. Based on the conclusions drawn from the collected data, we have come up with the following recommendations to make this study more beneficial. These are as follows. Government are recommended to impose additional infrastructure support to FAB so that the level of physical capital would complement to the level of tax incentives implemented. So, investors are highly encouraged to take the opportunity to engage in businesses and be registered to investment promotion agencies like AFAB to achieve and maximize high levels of proprietary gains. So, Freeport area of Bataan may devise another plan of action that could better improve investment in the Freeport. Business owners and other stakeholders take considerations of business activities that they are engaged in and elect an action for their subsequent business strategies. So to the community, this research may help the community to assess and weigh the opportunities such as jobs and entrepreneurship. So to the university, this research can be beneficial to the improvement of the university and provide notable information and contribute to the existing knowledge and development. So consumers are encouraged to provide continuous support to the businesses in the AFAB, and students and future researchers can use this study as a reference in their lectures and take advantage of the existing study to further enhance the knowledge regarding the effect of tax incentives to the economic growth. Thank you!